Welcome, everybody. I'm Vance Russell with the VR Conservation Collective, and I'm one of the co-leads along with Carrie Wren and Regine Miller for the Forest Business Alliance. Just an announcement to start. The funding for this project is provided by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, also known as CAL FIRE, their business and workforce development grants. And this is the first of a series of 4 workshops. We'll share the link for the other 3 in the chat during this webinar. But thanks for coming out today and joining us. And we'd be really appreciative if you joined the other seminars and participated as well. With that, I'll hand it back over to Kathleen.
Great. Thanks, Vance. So welcome for those who are just coming. I know if folks have been trickling in. If you haven't already, please do put your name or where you're calling from and your business in the chat. And we're going to start with a couple of polls just to get the sense of who's here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll, and it should just pop up on your screen, and you can submit, and then we're going to get just a sense of who's in the room. And so there's about 15 folks here now. So we'll give a sense of, so is this the first business venture that you own? Then that would be the one that you're currently with. So it looks like for most folks, no, this is not the first one. So thank you for that. Let me go ahead and end that. And then you can just see the results of that. Most people, it's not their first time. And then we're going to go back into one more. How long have you owned the current business that you're in, that you're here with? And so then again, start to get a sense of, this will help the presenters too as they kind of shape their remarks today. Just give a couple more moments here for folks to answer. 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10, or 10 plus years. All right. So then it looks like actually quite a good mix. About half the people, just under 1 to 5 years, and then the other 2 categories, those options. So great. And then 2 more questions for now. Have you created a business plan before? No. And again, this will really help the presenters as well. All right, so I'm almost half 50-50 as well there. I can share the results of that. Great. And then last question for now. Do you currently have a business plan in place? Just give another moment for everyone to answer. Okay, so this is great. I'm just going to go ahead and end it so we can get started. So most people don't currently have one in place. So great information, and that is helpful. We'll do more fun polls later in the presentation, but right now I want to start by introducing our first presenter, Mark Ferguson. And let me actually go ahead and share the screen. So Mark is the founder and owner of Brant and Cochran, which forges heirloom quality axes in its South Portland, Maine shop. As an entrepreneur, he's had both successes and failures. Immediately prior to starting Brant and Cochran in 2015, Mark was a co-owner of Bearware, a retail logistics software company, and a retail distribution services, a regional trucking and delivering company. The trucking company failed miserably, but the software business did not. It grew from 3 employees in an old dentist office in 1998. And yes, he even had a spit sink in his office, to an industry leader with 25 employees, multiple offices, and it was eventually sold to a multinational Descartes Systems in 2015. As a member of Maine Outdoor Brands and Maine Forest Products Council, he helps other startups and small businesses in the forestry and outdoor gear industry with business strategy and marketing plans. So with that, we're going to get started with Mark. Are you ready, Mark?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Come on. There we go. You just tell me when you want me to forward.
Will do. Good day, everyone. Thanks to the Forest Business Alliance for letting me share our story and hopefully a few lessons I learned along the way
Sorry.
that can help you craft your business plan and complete your CAL FIRE application. A little bit about Brant and Cochran. We're one of those few businesses that can sum up what they do in 3 words. We make axes. We started our business because my brother's godson was going to forestry school and needed a good axe. He couldn't find one readily available that was made in the United States. That bummed him out, and we thought there might be an opportunity to start a business. So we got started in 2015 and sold our first axe, what we called the Allagash Cruiser, in 2018. All our axes are forged from 1050 carbon tool steel at our shop, hung on an Amish turned hickory handle and protected by a Maine-made leather sheath. Our axes are sold directly to consumers via online sales and at forestry museums and various community events. We sell wholesale to outdoor gear stores and companies that support the forestry industry, such as arborware and forestry suppliers. We also sell related accessories like honing pucks and have a thriving service business restoring people's old vintage axes, which is really one of the more fun parts of the business. Brant Cochran has 3 partners and 5 employees right now. We're largely self-financed. We did run a successful Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign in 2017 to pay for our first hydraulic press. And since then, I've applied for and received various grants from the state of Maine for particular projects. So I have had the pleasure of filling out grant applications before. Due to high demand, we're about 22 weeks back on consumer orders for our axes, and we're booking wholesale orders into 2024. To meet this demand, we're in the midst of an aggressive expansion plan to double the size of our shop and triple production. We're working with the University of Maine's Advanced Manufacturing Center on that project right now. While our business is 8 years old, it's still a baby business. We're figuring out day by day and month by month as we go along. While from the outside looking in, it appears we're flying by the seat of our pants, we are guided by a high-level business plan. What I want to share with you guys today is a way to get started on your plan and how to frame it so that it makes sense and is useful for more than just this grant application process. Now, the CAL FIRE grant requires a business plan, which is going to be 20% of the score for grant approval. There are a lot of resources out there on how to prepare a business plan and what it should contain. The Forest Business Alliance will have a business plan template on its website soon, and the Alliance can provide assistance to you developing a business plan for your projects and your proposals. Generally, a business plan has 5 basic components. First, what are you planning to do? A business description of some type, telling folks what you're making and selling and why it's important to buy it. Second, how are you going to do it? How are you going to make or sell this product or service? Do you need employees? Where are you going to do it? Are you going to rent or buy a place to have your business? And how are you going to market with it? Third is how are you going to pay for this? Are you going to self-finance? You're going to get a bank loan, grants, some combination? You need to lay all that out. The fourth is how are you going to make money at it? You need to generate a profit and loss statement with projections stretching out a few years. And finally, how are you going to sustain your business? You'll prepare a cash flow analysis showing how money coming in, hopefully, exceeds the money going out after your startup period. Starting a business plan that you know others are going to pick apart can be a daunting and scary task. I mean, one of the questions Kathleen might have asked is how many of you have started a business plan and never finished one? Or the other one would be how many people have had a business plan and never followed it? I'm guilty of both those things. But when you start doing your business planning, you'll see all this information you're supposed to provide. You're staring at a blank computer screen. You're scratching your head going, where do I start with all this stuff? I'm going to suggest that you start with putting a lot of time into what's called a value proposition. All of the other parts of your business plan are going to flow from that. So what's a value proposition? It's really just a fancy term that means, why would anyone in their right mind buy what you're selling? What makes you so darn special? So what's a value proposition look like? If you hit the next slide there, Kathleen. Keep going. There you go. Here are some value propositions from Starbucks, Duluth Pack, which is one of my favorite companies. I love their products, and then our own. But what you'll immediately notice is that they're short. They're usually 3 or 4 sentences or a short paragraph long. They seem overly simplistic. On first glance, when you read them, they look like some kind of word salad created by high-paid consultants and approved by marketing executives. But I'd suggest to you guys that these are deadly serious. Each word or phrase has an impact on your business. If you start with your value proposition, the rest of your business plan is going to fall into place. Drafting that value proposition first is going to inform what parts of your business plan are important, what should be tackled initially and given the most attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through our short little value prop and show you what I mean. So you hit the next slide there, Kathleen. So this is our value proposition. So we forge handcrafted heirloom quality main wedge pattern axes that are used the world over by professional arborists and forests, outdoor enthusiasts, and homeowners. The first phrase is we forge. This means we're making the axes. We're not buying and distributing or adding value to already manufactured ones. These 2 words mean I have to spend considerable time in my plan going over where I'm getting raw materials, the steel, the handles, and the wedges, how I plan to actually make these axes. Is there a line item in my capital budget that says buy axe making machine? No, there is not, because there is no such thing. So I have to add information in my plan about how the heck I'm going to do this. We forge also implies that I have a shop. Am I building one, renting? Where? How much square footage do I need? What utilities are needed to create these, to power these machines we're going to use? We say the axes are handcrafted. This means I'm going to need highly skilled blacksmiths and machinists. I'm not doing any kind of black box manufacturing. I need to highlight in my plan the backgrounds of my first team members to prove that I can actually pull this off. Handcrafted also implies a maker environment. This is not a factory of low-skilled employees or robots pushing buttons on a machine and having an axe pop out the other end. We refer to the axes as heirloom quality. This means I need to research what is considered a quality axe. I'll talk to foresters, arborists, blacksmiths, and axe and tool enthusiasts about what separates a high-quality axe from others. The pro tip on this, it's the steel. It's the heat treating and the balance of the axe head when it's hung on a A+ quality handle. Heirloom quality also implies we're selling a premium product, which can command a premium price at retail and a higher than average margin at wholesale. It also means we have to integrate a high level of quality control into production and provide a lifetime product warranty. Heirloom quality also frames our market. We're not looking to compete on price, but on quality. So we're marketing to discerning consumers and high-end wholesale outlets. Our axes are main wedge pattern axes. This differentiates us from our competitors. We're the only company making this style of axe. This will inform our marketing plan. It also means I need to have an education component in my marketing plan about what makes these main pattern axes so cool and unique. Finally, we describe our target market and used by professional arborists, foresters, etc. What does this say? It says we're not making bespoke axes for collectors. We're making axes to be used. They're going to be professional grade, but accessible to the occasional user. And sometimes what's also important is what your value prop doesn't say. What ours doesn't say, it doesn't say we're competing on price. It doesn't imply we're making a mass market product. It doesn't say that our company goal is to quickly scale and forsake quality. It doesn't reference any trend we're chasing. Now let's look at how a value proposition will drive your completion of a business plan and your CAL FIRE grant application. So you can hit the next slide there, Kathleen. There are 6 components to your grant application, one of which is the business plan. Each component of the grant application is scored a little differently, and your value prop has an impact on each of these components. And each of these components in here also have various pieces, parts of what would be in a business plan. So it really flows throughout this whole application. The project background is 10 points, is scored with 10 points. It's central to this section is how your proposal is going to contribute to a robust wood products industry, makes California an easier place to do forest sector business, and fits into the state's goal to support green technology and jobs in that sector. 2 points here to work into a value prop and incorporate throughout your business plan or proposal is that this proposal isn't about why your business is so cool. It's about why it's so cool to CAL FIRE and its goals. This is really knowing who you're writing this grant application and proposal for, this business plan for. Secondly, what are you doing different from others in this same space? That's something you can also put into your business or your value prop. The business plan itself is worth 20 points. CAL FIRE guidance on writing this part of your grant application stresses that the following information shall be included in your business plan: operational efficiency, price and costs of inputs such as labor, equipment, and raw materials, and a market analysis. Just pretty standard stuff for a business plan. Now, you can't stuff all that into 4 or 5 sentences, but your value prop should reflect that you know what you're doing, you can execute on your plan, and that your plan and proposal aligns with CAL FIRE's goals. The budget is 25 points. And again, you don't see an Excel spreadsheet tacked onto someone's value proposition, but it is in there. It is reflected in there. For example, in our value prop, where we state we forge, means I better have some associated costs for purchasing and maintaining machines in my budget. And conversely, if my budget has a line item for machines, I should state somewhere in my value prop that I'm making something. For the section on applicant qualifications, here what CAL FIRE is asking for is your experience and your ability to commit the time and resources to make your project successful. The question they're really asking is why you? Why should they risk giving you money? Your value prop might include something like our team has over 25 years of experience or number of years of experience successfully doing X, and then highlight all of that in your plan. The project impact section is probably the one mostly closely associated with the traditional value proposition. Here, CAL FIRE is asking you to state how your project goals align with those of the grant program. That is really the guts of a value proposition. You should be able to write a few sentences that state what makes your business so special and so special to CAL FIRE. Finally, there's a project readiness section. Here, CAL FIRE is asking you for a chronology or like a Gantt chart with milestones and you're expected to hit. What they're really asking is why should they believe you? You need to highlight your track record working on projects like this. Who are your partners? What technology is being deployed and why it's reliable and sustainable? Your value prop might say something like using some type of proven technology, whatever your technology is, and industry experts, we're going to do X. So it actually can get that distilled down pretty easily. You hit the next slide there, Kathleen. So a few just general, I know some of you have already written the business plan or at least attempted one. I think I've started and stopped at least a dozen. I'm in the middle of one I started about 6 months ago and haven't finished. So I know it's a tough thing. First thing is really to know your audience. You're not writing this business plan, this particular one that's going to be in the Cal Fire grant, for a hedge fund or an angel investor who only wants to see their payout, right? You're writing it to appeal to Cal Fire and its goals. So those things should be sprinkled throughout the grant application. The important thing is to really know thyself, and really it's don't kid yourself. We thought when we got into this that we'd be able to make axes within a year. We didn't think it'd be that hard. It's just a piece of iron, jam on a stick on the end of it, sharpen it, and away you go. We thought we'd do it within a year. It took us 3, so it ended up being 3 years hard. Do a personal assessment. Understand what you like to do and what you don't like to do. What parts of working on the application, your business plan, and your business you can pull off personally, and those you can't. Don't be too stubborn to not ask for help. That trucking company that I shuttered, that was one of my problems. I was just too damn stubborn and didn't ask for help and didn't stick with the business plan. Challenge your assumptions again and again. On the revenue side, make sure your assumptions on price for your product or service are justifiable and sustainable, that your sales projections are realistic. I usually urge people to downplay your sales projections unless you have some kind of magic ball that you're going to actually pull it off. I don't think I've ever hit a sales projection, especially when you're looking at assumptions that go out, 18 months, 2 years from now. Who would have thought we'd gone through a pandemic, right? So just be realistic. On the expenses side, plan that everything is going to be more expensive and you're going to need more of everything than you think. This may not apply here, but pick a template and stick with it. Most business plan templates require the same basic information. Don't get hung up on finding the perfect one. Good news for all you is that the Forest Business Alliance is going to give you one to use. On the timeline, if you have suppliers or relying on others outside your organization, assume that there will be supply chain problems, people problems, and more. It's going to take longer than you think or plan for. As part of this growth thing we're in right now, we are waiting on new hydraulic presses, which were promised to us at the beginning of the year. We're getting our first of 3 at the end of this month. So it's frustrating, but that's reality. Can you hit the next slide there? So a lot of this can seem overwhelming when you open up and start looking at a blank page, writing a business plan, but there's a lot of resources out there and people available to help you. For us, we leaned on the maker community in Maine, the Small Business Administration, and actually bankers. Even though we didn't get a bank loan, bankers had great templates and great help on crafting a business plan and doing P&L and cash flow analysis. So remember, you're not alone. As mentioned, the Forest Business Alliance is going to provide you a business plan template and is also available to help you flesh out your plan and your application. There's all sorts of free resources that you might have already been using on general business consulting and putting together a business plan. There's the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, SCORE, Chamber of Commerce resources, professional organizations, and again, local bankers I find are really helpful. So help is out there. After saying all this, I'll make a confession. I used to think that value props were silly and a waste of time. And I still kind of feel silly writing one. But over the years, I've learned that a value proposition is not only an important tool for business planning, but making sure everyone on your team knows where the company is headed and what their part in that in your company is, it really drives all your marketing efforts and is your elevator pitch. It's what you tell people when you go have a drink with them about what it is you do. And finally, it needs to be constantly tested and tweaked, just like your business plan. It's not something that you write and you get printed on 5,000, mailers, and you get, engraved in your wall. You're going to change it over time. We've changed ours a couple times in the last 8 years. So know that it's going to change and look forward to changing it. So that's all I got. Hopefully that's been helpful. Thanks for having me. And if I can help anybody, please get in contact with me at Brant and Cochran. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Great, thanks so much, Mark. And we will be sending out contact for both presenters today to everyone who registered. So you can look for that along with the link to the recording. So before we move to our next presenter, we're going to just do a few more poll questions, again, to get a sense of where everyone is. So this one has to do with, have you applied for a CAL FIRE grant before? So go ahead and just take a moment, please submit yes or no there.
Okay.
Wait till the majority of folks have had a chance to respond to that. You should see it pop up on your screen. Okay, so not everybody, but most people have responded. So majority of people have not yet applied for the CAL FIRE grant. Good to know. And then the next question is, have you applied for any government grant before? And again, you can just pop in yes or no. Try to give us folks a chance to answer this.
Yeah, I'm my coffee.
All right, so there is definitely some. Yep, and then a few no's. So then last one here. And this takes just, oops, hang on. Why is it not? So then this last one, what type of business do you own? And this is a multiple choice option, so you can select all that apply. Just again, to get a sense of the audience. So, and we can kind of see who's here and who's.
Yeah.
And again, you can choose as many that apply. Give just a few more seconds for folks to. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end this poll and then share the results here. So you can get a sense of who's here and in what industry and what groups you're coming from. And then I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Let me get out of the poll here. So, Merritt Jenkins, CEO and co-founder of Kodama Systems. This was a startup developing technologies to increase the pace and scale of forest thinning and biomass utilization. Kodama is leveraging machine autonomy and carbon markets to transform the economics of forest management, and the company was awarded a CAL FIRE Business Development Grant in Q4 of 2022. Merritt has an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management and an MS in Robotics from Carnegie Mellon, as well as an undergrad in engineering from Dartmouth. And so I'm going to take this down, and then Merritt, you can go ahead and share your slides, and thank you, Merritt. And we will have questions for both presenters at the end, so just to let everyone know that.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending. I'm going to I'll give a little outline. I'm going to give some background on what we're building at Kodama. Then I'll quickly compare Kodama to Mark's company, Brant and Cochran. And then we'll get into some of the details of our specific business plan for CAL FIRE and the specifics of the CAL FIRE business plan and their requirements. So in terms of what we're building at Kodama, we are developing technology to improve the productivity of forest thinning operations. And this visualization may look a little space agey. We've got low Earth orbit satellites, we've got private network in the forest, and we've got a machine that's outfitted with cameras and LiDAR, cell modems, all of the components that are needed to make a machine autonomous. And that's what we're doing. We are building machine autonomy for forest operations. So a little more about us. We're 9 team members right now. We have people across robotics, operations, and business development. We're based in Sonora, California. So I'm based just 20 minutes uphill from Sonora in a small town called Twain Harte. We've raised venture capital funding. So the requirements of venture capital funders is they are looking for a big swing. So we are not a typical forest thinning, forest restoration company. We are building our own technology and proving that technology can be more efficient in the forest. And as Kathleen said, we were awarded a CAL FIRE grant of about $300,000 last year. I wrote that on my own. I had never written a grant application before, so spent some time with CAL FIRE to really understand what they were looking for. They will give you a free 30-minute consultation. They have the most free time, it appears, right after the cycle of grants. So they're probably reviewing grants right now. They'll award their next batch of grants in probably early June. And so if you're thinking about applying in Q3, I would reach out to them maybe middle of June, end of June, after you see that the grants are awarded. So comparison to Brant and Cochran. There are a lot of reasons that Brant and Cochran would have a more compelling CAL FIRE grant application than us. Now, Mark hasn't applied for CAL FIRE because he's based in Maine, but in terms of the status of the company, I applied June of last year. So I essentially had an idea. I had raised a bit of venture capital funding. I had a co-founder, but it was just a team of 2 of us. Mark has an existing company. He has 8 years of track record. In terms of a financial model, I built one from scratch a year ago, and it's what I would call a pro forma financial model. So it's projected financials. We don't have any financials right now. And we'll get into some details on that in a little bit. Mark has existing financials. So he can show CAL FIRE, hey, this is my business today. And if I get this money, this is what it will do to my business a year from now. I have no revenue. Mark has revenue. That's compelling to CAL FIRE, of course. And then in terms of technology risk, I have plenty of technology risk. Mark has very little. So for most of you in the audience, I think I'm probably a different type of business, where I saw that a number of you have owned businesses for 10 years plus. That's a big benefit for you, in that you have everything on the right side of the column for Brant and Cochran. So on my end, I had to leverage my strengths. And so my strengths are, if we are automating equipment, that equipment doesn't just have to be applied to forest restoration in California. It can be applied across the US. We have a market size of billions of dollars. Brant and Cochran, the axe market is just frankly smaller than the market of forest thinning. And then in terms of the scale of impact on California restoration, which is one thing that CAL FIRE really cares about, I can pitch CAL FIRE and say, hey, we can treat tens of thousands of acres per year if successful. Whereas axe handles are a relatively small driver of acres that you can treat. So I just bring this up to highlight that no matter what type of company you're pitching to CAL FIRE, there are certain strengths that you can leverage to use the type of company that you're building to your advantage in writing a grant application. So on the right-hand side, is what CAL FIRE requires for a business plan. So it's in some ways pretty formulaic. They want to see, and frankly, in my view, it's a little funny. Like operational efficiency is the first thing on their list. Price of product. Not all of these are going to be a perfect fit for your company. So I could talk to operational efficiency. We've done operational efficiency studies on the ground. Price of product. We don't really have a product. We're developing technology. So as you go through this for your own company, you'll see that some are a really good fit for what you need to pitch, and others you can probably leave out. So on the left-hand side is how we structured our business plan for CAL FIRE. So I described we primarily at the time had an idea, not a real existing business. So an introduction, the vision and strategy. So talking about workforce capacity issues in the state of California, talking about biomass utilization issues, and pitching this vision of we can treat tens of thousands more acres if we have equipment that is teleoperated or autonomous, highlighting the key technology, where we stand on that key technology. And then we get into the financial modeling. So that's really number 3 and number 4. So costs of inputs, inflation, and discount rates. Really, I think what they're asking for there is they want to see a financial model. Market analysis, we then talk about prospective competitors, but it's not a particularly competitive market that we're in. So more talking about the growth opportunities in the market, the fact that the state of California has a memorandum of understanding with the feds to treat 1 million acres per year. So there's this significant growth market that we're playing into. Feedstock agreements, we had a little bit about offtake agreements. And then we at the time and still now are greatly leveraging partners. That wasn't a component required of the business plan, but a key part of our pitch. So highlighting here the differences between what we actually submitted to CAL FIRE and then what they request. Given a little bit more information, this is the type of introduction that we had, just framing the scale of the opportunity here, talking about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the fact that that's going to pump money into the Forest Service, and there needs to be more work performed on the ground. I mentioned workforce capacity as the second paragraph, the fact that labor productivity will need to scale 2x. So really pitching our company here in an introduction. Then in terms of vision and strategy, Mark mentioned having a couple sentences describing exactly the product you are offering and how it differentiates yourself. This is maybe half of that. Here I say briefly, we're a technology-enabled service provider that optimizes forests for climate resilience and carbon benefit. And we want to be the most efficient forest thinning operation in the Western US. And then after this, I outlined the specific objectives that we need to achieve. So these objectives were, we need to establish site connectivity, so high-speed internet on forest thinning sites. We need to automate a piece of equipment, and those were the key objectives for this particular grant. And I mentioned the financial modeling component. I would stress that this is the most important aspect of any business plan. And I think it's different between a business plan you're building for your company versus the business plan that CAL FIRE needs to see. Because when you are building your own business plan, you want to get into a lot of detail on the financial modeling. Whereas CAL FIRE, I mean, maybe they have accountants going through it, but I'd be really surprised. My hunch, I think, is that it's really like a couple people in a room reading these applications. So what I did is you're limited to 5 pages for your business plan. So I kept it to a description of the financial model, the key assumptions of the financial model. So if we go back to what they want to see an assumption of a discount rate. So by discount rate, they mean a cost of capital. So whether that's the cost of capital that a lender is lending you, or it's an internal cost of capital. Those types of assumptions I would list out in the 5-page component of the business plan. And then the key takeaways of the model. So those key takeaways are going to be things like, what is your operating margin? What is your net margin? If you want to do a cash flow statement, you can talk about what is your internal rate of return. Those are some of the key takeaways that you likely want to list off in that 5-page business plan. And then they don't give you a limit in the appendix. So what I did in the appendix is I put together a pro forma income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. And I already had this because I needed to put this together. This wasn't a business plan that I put together for CAL FIRE. This is modeling that I did in thinking through how do we want to structure this company. And so literally I just screenshotted the income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and put that in the appendix. And then this is my last slide for today. This is what an example pro forma income statement will look like. So I just put in some placeholder numbers here. So let's say we're projecting $1 million a year in revenue. I'm projecting out 5 years. That's pretty common in a pro forma income statement. And then there's some key costs of operations. So you've got payroll as a cost of operation. We're operating some equipment, so we have fuel cost. You need to move your workers back and forth, so you have a worker transport cost. And all of those tie into the operating margin. And then after that, we are financing some things. So we have interest expense, and then we have taxes. And the key components are really what is the operating margin of your business and what is the net margin? So meaning net after taxes. So we can now open up the floor for questions. We've got about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Merritt. If you want to drop the screen share, then folks can see a gallery view of others if they'd like. So you can feel free to either unmute and ask a question, or you can type a question that you might have in the chat. And we would also just love to know what has been sort of your biggest challenge in developing a business plan, either currently or in the past, and either presenter can speak to that, or if you have a specific question for either presenter, that's fine too. So we'll go ahead and open it up.
If you want, I can start on the biggest challenge I've had, and I think Merritt, it's having that pro forma, that smaller P&L and cash statement makes a lot of sense when you're getting started out. One of my problems is always trying to provide way too much detail, because like you said, I'm doing it internally for myself, but the people reading the grants, I would be shocked if they go back and read your appendix, right? I mean, they want to see the narrative. It's really about the narrative in there about your budget. I know for the main grants I've applied for, that's what they're really interested in. But, you know, you better have something back there to back it up eventually. But I agree with you that it's all about the narrative on the budget, as opposed to laboring over, you know, a 20 sheet spreadsheet. So.
Thanks, Mark. Does anyone have specific questions that you'd like to ask by the presenter in general? Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was trying to remember how to raise my hand.
You're good.
on
That's
Zoom.
fine. I know.
I'm trying to remember like which one. Where's the hand raise on
You
this?
can just do this
one?
way too.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Ehlert. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Fabric Workshop. We're a mass timber company based in California, and we did have a successful CAL FIRE R&D grant last year, and now we'll be going back this fall for the business development grant. My question, I think the thing that we're trying to figure out the most is, you know, we're getting into a mass timber manufacturing business, and we're really trying to understand the impact of the feedstock analysis, and in particular, sourcing materials from wildfire projects specifically. You know, we can tap into commodity material supplies, lumber supplies for our feedstock, but where we're going is, you know, and where we're working with, you know, research institutions and engineers, is to utilize more of that lower value material. So I'm just trying to, get a sense if anybody has, a sense of like what CAL FIRE is looking for. Like, we can obviously frame it about where we're starting today versus where we want to go, but like, where do you see the emphasis on like that future state and utilizing that lower value species and the overall kind of like utilization and over a 10-20 year period?
Where?
Yeah, Scott, I would. I mean, I'm not with CAL FIRE, and so I don't
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what they're looking for. But
Yeah.
my takeaway from conversations with them is I would pitch that component heavily, and I think they will absolutely understand that you need to build an initial business using the existing timber market or using existing lumber and then move to low value. What they will probably look for is what is your access to feedstock, and do you have relationships on the national forests or with loggers utilizing low value biomass? And even better, if you have offtake agreements or if you have a letter of intent with a logger, even if it's 2 years from now, and being able to pitch the number of acres that can be treated, because it seems to me like their highest priority is treat a lot of acres really quickly. And so for us, they recognize that we are a long-term play, in that automating equipment, that's going to take a few years. And then scaling that up to treat acres will take some time, versus what you're doing. If you can say, hey, within 2 years, we can be removing material from 3,000 acres, that's a massive win. I don't know if any of that was helpful.
No, very much so. Yeah. I'm just kind of thinking about how you kind of structure that narrative around that. And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Merritt. And I'll also just mention that perhaps, if others who have had experience also want to chime in from their experience, that's welcome as well. So feel free to either unmute or raise your hand, however you'd like to do that. And I'll take while you're considering, if you'd like to add anything, Jolene also has a question. She put, does it help to have a business specialist assist with a market analysis? Either of you like to take that one?
I'll just say I think it depends on your skill set. We did it all internally, but spent a lot of time speaking. A year and a half ago or a year ago, my expertise was not in this industry, so I felt comfortable building out the financial statements, but spent a lot of time with people in the industry. If your expertise is the opposite, then I would just make sure that the consultant you're working with is really comfortable building out financial statements, and that they have even ideally a background in accounting. Mark, anything to add there?
I would just say, as far as doing a market analysis like that with consultants, a lot of the business grants we get always want to know what the size of your market is, right? And for us, there is no easy market thing for specialty axes or whatever, so we dealt with a lot with people at the SBA and international trade organizations in the state to really do that work for us for free, because I knew there wasn't going to be a real easy answer to the question I was asking, and I didn't want to spend money on someone and then get a 3-page thing back from going, we don't know what it is. So I would urge you to do as much research as you're comfortable with up front by yourselves. And then whatever you do, if you're going to hire a consultant to do something, shackle them down to what is the deliverable, and be super specific about what the deliverable is.
Great, thank you. Who else has a question? We got time for a couple more if folks would like to take advantage of this time. And Jolene just says, thank you for your responses, are both helpful. So.
One other thing to add there, Jolene, is a third component of this project, besides the technical assistance in the workshops, is that we'll be creating regional peer learning networks. with folks to provide learning and feedback on a variety of issues that people in each region identify. So there could be an opportunity in your region. You're in Southern California, I believe, for to connect up with businesses there and get feedback and marketing analysis from fellow forest-based business owners as well, if not from Southern California, from other parts of the state.
Thanks, Vance. Any other questions? And don't be shy, because this will be on the recording for other folks too who will be watching it. So
There's not I'll make one more comment about, and this really goes to Merritt, when you were going through your initial, that introduction on in your plan. I'm dealing with a grant in Maine right now. And the one we were successful with, I kind of did a recap of what got it for us. And one of the things that grant, the people looking at those grant proposals said was that we did a good job telling a story, in our grant application. And we really peppered through our entire grant application what we're really trying to do, as opposed to just like, here's section A, here's the 5 sentences that answer that question, here's the 5 sentences that answer that question, etc. But trying to tell an overarching narrative through your entire application about just what it is exactly you're trying to do, and why, for us, why it was good for the state of Maine, why it was good for the government, why it made everyone at the government bureau that was giving us the money, why they would feel good about it and talk to their friends about it on the weekend, right? And but that narrative and telling a story in the grant application, while it's sometimes hard because it's question answer, but I think the more you guys can do that, I think the more successful you'll be.
yeah, great point, Mark. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm noting that Vance did put a link in the chat to other upcoming workshops that are happening. So Vance, do you want to say a couple things about those and other resources available?
Sure. Yeah, you can check out those links to those workshops. There's a sawmill workshop coming up next in June, proposal writing and budgeting in July, and forest management in August. And as you saw from this workshop, these workshops aren't about creating experts in an hour, but they're really about getting you the best information so that you can create the most competitive proposal for CAL FIRE in upcoming rounds. So there's that. There's also if you need more specific tech assistance from our team, we're more than happy to help out for any of the aspects of your proposal. Mark and Merritt have offered to give more information or assistance to folks that need it regarding business plans, but there's other technical expertise in our team also on the website. You can check that out. And then, as Mark mentioned too, we'll be developing a business template. One of the challenges with business templates is that they're for businesses that aren't necessarily in this arena, especially forestry. So there can be things that don't apply, or there's not things that apply to the grant proposal. So we'll be putting together a template that's specifically aimed at that and those components, and putting that up on the website to make available for all of you and others.
Great.
And
Thanks,
just want
Matt.
to give a special thanks to Mark and Merritt for their presentations. Really fantastic. Really enjoyed them and really well done. We'll be sharing a recording of this video as well as their presentations on the site as well. Thanks, you guys.
Great. Thanks, Vance. And yes, echoing thanks to Merritt and Mark. We can all just kind of, if you want to come off mute and say thanks live, and there will be a follow-up email then with this information and their contact information if you'd like to follow up or reach out to one of them individually. And with that, unless there's any burning questions, we're going to go ahead and end on time.
Thanks, everyone.
All.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everyone.
Great. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, bye.